Good evening. If you have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please, thank you. Right, huge welcome to Darren Nesbitt with The Great Pyramid, Sacred Geometry and the Word of God, a new model of Earth. Now, Darren's last presentation that was filmed here went viral with 750,000 views to date. Right, controversial as ever, Darren presents the latest revelations that evidently indicate our Earth, at least, isn't a globe. And looking towards the Great Pyramid, he attempts to prove it's also stationary. Darren's talks have provoked some people so much that he has received death threats, even though he hasn't actually threatened anybody. Why can't people play nicely? Please welcome Darren Nesbitt.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for inviting me tonight. Thanks to everybody for coming out and listening to me once again, even though you can hear my shtick on YouTube. It's true. I mean, I don't aim to be controversial. I just I prefer. My goal is just to get the truth out as I see it. If I come across new truth, I'll change my mind as well. Unlike the last video, I'm not going to go on and on about why the Earth isn't a ball. I did also that at the UFO conference presentation in Manchester back in March. Those videos are available on YouTube. I am going to talk a little bit about it. I'm also going to talk quite a lot about why the mainstream flat Earth model is also wrong. It seems to not have gone away. I did mention it last time I was here 18 months ago, but when the flat Earth comes up, everybody seems to still be on the circle model. It's used everywhere. It's almost like the programming, the conditioning was again. The globe was everywhere, and now that circle model is everywhere. I'm going to talk quite a lot about the reasons why I don't think that's true, why it's not the real Earth. And then hopefully we'll get time and I'll actually present 20 minutes, half an hour at the end, and I'll show you an alternative model. It's an idea, it's a concept, and like with everything else, go research for yourself. The idea is not to listen to me. Everything I say is gospel. As it happens, I hope that a lot of what I say turns out to be true when you go and research it for yourself. And I hope that people do that, whoever they're listening to. The ultimate goal is for you to be your own researcher, for you to have that high standard. Well, is that true? Now, I was just talking to a few people then, and admittedly, when you first get into the flat Earth, you don't really research everything they're saying because it's such a mind-blowing realisation. We've all been lied to all our lives. That the Earth's a globe and we're in outer space, and when you realise that's not true, you go and look at NASA's stuff, which I'm not going to go through tonight because I've covered it a lot before, and you realise it's just a Hollywood stage, telescreen hoaxery. It is mind-blowing. So while your mind's open, what they seem to have done is insert this model in, and I didn't check out Southern Flights, and I didn't check out this ice wall arm and all the other myths that go along with it, but now I have, and now I'm absolutely convinced that the flat Earth is not a circle. It's not a ball. It's not a circle. I'm coming off Facebook tomorrow, so if you want to get in touch with me or if you want to follow me, that's my YouTube channel. First question is, why does it matter? A lot of truth seekers ask this question, and on one level it's true. On one level it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we're on a flat Earth or a globe where it's stationary moving it, because the deep state is still in charge. They're still poisoning people with vaccines. They're still poisoning the air and the water. They're still fracking. They're still doing all the evil stuff. So what does it matter? Well, let me ask you a question. Do your beliefs direct your behaviours? So if you have a set philosophy, a set of philosophies or beliefs about the world, about your origins, about the origins of the world, is that going to direct your behaviours? In other words, if you believe there's a God that's going to judge, or if you believe in the brotherhood of man, that you should treat people as you expect to be treated, then you're going to behave quite differently towards your brothers and sisters. So the bottom line is, yes, it matters a great deal. Because it's one of the biggest questions that everybody can ask themselves. Who am I? What are we doing here? What's the origins? Where do we come from? Why are we here? Everybody asks themselves those questions, even if they pretend not to. In those quiet moments. And for me, I've been seeking those questions all my life. I'm not saying I've got all the answers yet, but we're getting closer every day. If you still believe that, you know, NASA have been to the moon, then you still believe in telescreen trickery. This looks quite obvious now that it's 1970s special effects, Apollo 16 taking off allegedly from the moon. It's quite clear that's special effects. It's not a real rocket taking off, but NASA will maintain that, you know, that it is. And if you still have that belief, that's going to direct your whole thinking towards what I say and what other people say about the shape of the Earth and God and all the rest of it as well. So, as I was saying at the top, I mean, I think what they're doing is they've created a false dichotomy. So you can choose error A or error B and fight over it as much as you like while we carry on poisoning and, you know, enslaving everybody. And it causes confusion and it causes division. I mean, hands up if you've not been in a heated argument over the shape of the Earth in the last 2 years. Not one person? No, everybody, whether you believe it's globe, whether you believe it's flat, whether you believe it's one person at the back, no? No, okay, just one person. Okay, so, you know, it does cause division no matter what. And I think, and again, myself, Laurie Ferreri, I had a debate with Jeren and David Weiss a week ago. And for me, the whole point of the debate was to show that people can debate without shouting at each other, without getting angry, without calling each other names and insulting people. And that's more important than anything, really. So, like I say, very briefly, you know, the major things that are wrong with the ball. Number one, no measurable or detectable movement. Where even if you believe that we are rotating around at 1,038 miles an hour at the equator, you will actually have to admit that your senses don't feel it. Now, you might have reasons and excuses why that is the case, but we do not feel any motion. Now, I'm one of those people that say, I will accept what my senses have told me every single day of my life. Stand outside, we're not moving, there's no motion whatsoever. If there's a breeze, you know, then we can feel a little bit of motion. But that's probably one of the major things. And obviously, if we're not in motion, it's very unlikely that we're on a ball. No curvature to be seen anywhere either. We can see, and again, I've covered this a lot, we can see buildings and islands and mountains way far in the distance than we should be able to, given that the Earth is allegedly a ball with a radius of 3,959 miles. And again, going back to NASA, why have they gone to all that trouble to fake all those space missions, to do all these composite shots? I mean, this quite famous image of Earth from 1972 was supposedly taken halfway to the moon. If you know that we never went anywhere near the moon, because you can't, then obviously that's fake as well. So why, you know, if it really was a ball, you wouldn't try and fake it. Yeah, you know, you would find other ways. You wouldn't create this whole $19 billion a year sinkhole, you know, to create a fake ball. I'll go into the reasons why we're not in a circle shortly. The flat Earth has definitely been a rollout. They definitely knew it was coming. They definitely knew this realisation was coming. You know, here's a really obvious piece of evidence why. We're all aware of the Illuminati cards by Steve Jackson. I think they're from 1985 or 1995. But there's a flat Earth card. You know, this is 15 years, you know, before, I think 2014 was when flat Earth first started surfacing. It's really gone, really good, you know, it's really exploded from 2015, and obviously now it's, you know, we've had the Flat Earth Conference and it's hitting the BBC with 3 million views and it's everywhere. They knew it was coming out. They knew that people would have the internet and would search these things out for themselves, so obviously they're going to control it and limit it to the best of their ability. Controlled opposition. If it's there in the 9/11 truth movement, it split it and divided it and neutered it, it's going to be there everywhere. You know, I don't think anybody fully trusts Alex Jones or David Icke or what have you. They've got some truth, but a lot of what they say, it just doesn't seem, you know, why aren't these guys organising, you know, serious political action? You know, they just kind of seem to like being on the circuit. Flat Earth's no different. You know, the card actually says people laugh, but the flat earthers know something. So that tells me that they don't know everything. Another really important point to know, or thing to know about, is the Delphi technique. Now, I only came across this recently. It's used a lot in Agenda 21 meetings across the world, certainly across America. I would imagine it's being used in Britain as well, but everywhere they put Agenda 21, and it's to manufacture a consensus. So, get people in a room, or get locals, or what have you, and you will have at the end of the meeting, you will have the impression that you contributed towards a consensus, but in fact, it's the consensus that they wanted in the first place. Yeah, it's psychological manipulation techniques. And if you think, well, if you realise it can be done in a room, it can absolutely be done on the internet. It can absolutely be done. So be aware of psychological manipulation techniques that are going on. And again, I think that's what they've done with the flat earth, to manufacture a consensus around this circle model. For me, it is a case of once you go through the evidence, once the impossible's been eliminated, whatever remains, it doesn't matter how strange or improbable, but it must be the truth. It's logic and sound reasoning. But again, I mean, maybe it's kind of it's a part of truth seeking, because your mind gets blown so much, so you don't know what to trust. And I think maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's why they don't mind the truth community being a thing, because what's real and what's not. Are they telling the truth about this? Are they telling the truth about that? This is what I'm saying. Be your own ultimate authority, I suppose. You're the standard. So just a few quick questions on the ball. And here's, I mean, just generally, what they say happens on a global scale, on a planetary scale, just doesn't seem to match any real-world normal physics. Yeah, anything that we're we're used to ourselves, or that can be experimentally proven. Nothing they say on a planetary scale or on a great big ball Earth scale actually matches what we're used to. In other words, you get a gas and you put it under a bell jar, or if you've got gases under a bell jar and you take that bell jar off, it's obviously going to dissipate. It's going to do the same next to a vacuum as well. Yeah, that's what we're used to. How does it not fly off into space? The other thing is, we don't feel the motion because the atmosphere is rotating perfectly along with it. All the gases in the atmosphere are rotating perfectly along with the Earth, so you can't feel any motion. Again, gases don't behave like a solid. It's not our normal real-world experience. You see on the right here, that's 100 miles an hour. What would it be like if there was actually 1,000 mile an hour winds? Another huge one is water. Always finds a level surface. It takes the shape of, obviously, of the bottom, but the surface, whether it's a cup of tea or an ocean, you've got a flat surface. Now, the Earth is supposed to be 70% water, so how does all that water, all those oceans, manage to stay around a ball? If I got a ball and put some water on it, doesn't matter if I spun it or left it still, it's not going to stick to it. It doesn't matter how big the ball is. And then, why is there no difference in weight or speed between the latitudes? At the pole, the Earth is spinning 0 miles an hour. At the equator, it's spinning at 1,038 miles an hour. That should create a difference, a huge centrifugal force, and a difference a difference actually, in weights at those places. And obviously, when you're travelling between those places, if you're a plane flying north-south, those pilots would have to make huge adjustments. And the other common question is, well, why does flying east not take, hardly any of the time as it does flying west? There doesn't seem to be any difference. And here's a real emperor's new clothes one. It's a very childlike way of looking at it. But again, the ball it must be a 3D object. It's got an up and a down and sides to it. But nobody lives on the side of it. You know what I mean? You never see elephants in Africa walking, horizontally. Kangaroos in Australia don't, they're not underneath the ball. Everybody seems to live on top of the ball. No matter where you are, we're all on top of the ball, on top of the Earth. Everybody lives on top of the land. You know what I mean? Wherever you are, east, west, north, south. Yeah, everybody lives on top of this plane. Now, the answer to most of those questions is the get out of jail free card. Gravity. It does everything. And imagine if you were making up some model or concept or whatever it is, and you any question like, well, how does this work? And you could just go, here's my get out of jail free card. And it'd be like, oh yeah, gravity. Gravity has never been proven as a force. Yeah? As an effect, 9.8 metres per second, the rate of acceleration all over the Earth is observable science. But that's an effect. It could be anything causing it. Until somebody proves otherwise, why wouldn't it be the atmosphere? Because the atmosphere is actually pretty constant all over the Earth, which again shouldn't be the case if we were on a rotating ball. So we know gravity is an effect, if you like. We know things fall at the same rate. And again, a lot of flat Earth myth that gravity doesn't exist at all, which is, you know, it makes it sound uneducated. It makes it sound as if people haven't studied science or don't know what they're talking about, or at least haven't done any research. But again, like I say, this is a get-out-of-jail-free card for the ball, and it's never been proven experimentally. Lots of advanced mathematics and equations. So, it doesn't hold water for me. Right, I want to move on. Like I say, you know, I've done a lot of debunking of the ball Earth. I don't want to go over too much old ground. What I want to talk about is this counterintelligence model. Whatever variation it is, because I also hear, you know, quite a lot, oh yeah, the circle, it's just the best we've got at the moment, or I don't believe in the circle model, or I don't believe in the AE model, but here's the Gleason's map. You know, whichever version of it is, yeah, the circle model with the North Pole in the middle, the Antarctic wall around the outside, and the sun and moon circling round and round with one pole, you know, above the North Pole. Like I say, I believe it was inserted into the Flat Earth movement to purposely misdirect, to make it seem foolish, to stop it growing, to stop it growing. Because what a lot of people will do is go to Flat Earth debunking videos, and they've got far more views than, you know, any of mine or any about debates or what have you. And they will see it easily debunked. I mean, I've come up with 20 things here. I'm going to go through a lot of them, but not all of them tonight. And like I say, I believe it's to stop the flat Earth growing, because truth is truth. You know, I'm only interested in the truth. If this was the real model, I'd be jumping for joy. I'd be promoting it. I'd be saying this is why and this is why the debunkings don't work. But the bottom line is, Earth is two equal halves. It's two equal halves, centre of the equator, and as you go north and south, they're even. This model and any variation of it, obviously, the further you go south, the bigger and longer and larger everything gets. Yeah, it's actually a projection of the globe. And as far as I know, Samuel Rowbottom was one of the first to suggest it back in the mid-19th century. Obviously, we've done a lot of exploring and science since then as well. He may well have been guessing, but today, anybody that promotes this either hasn't done their own research, proper research into it, and thought for themselves, or they are promoting disinformation on purpose. One of the two. I mean, we can all be deceived. That's fair enough. But if you're shown a weight of evidence and you still, you ignore it all. I mean, these are real-world observations from people all over the Earth. So, first one is the equinoxes. Now, for everybody on Earth, the sun rises on March the 21st, there or thereabouts, and September the 21st, it rises at 90 degrees east and sets 270 degrees west. Check it out for yourself next March, if you didn't already know. With the circle model, that's impossible. You can see here, you give me a laser pointer, haven't you? Woo! All right. You can see here, in Africa, this is where the sun will rise on the circle model as it's going around the equator, but that is due east. So, quite clearly, not going to match. And again, it's the same when it's leaving west, that's due west, but west on the equator, on the circle model, is going to be over here. So that doesn't match reality. Now, if the sun is travelling straight on those 2 days, then the sun can't be circling, that'll just prove it all by itself. The path of the sun is straight overhead on those 2 days, then it can't be circling around. Daylight hours are equal for places equidistant north and south, 6 months apart. So in Beirut, 33 degrees north, it has a 14-hour, 24-minute solstice day length. Matching Sydney's at virtually exactly the same latitude, equal south. Same with Swansea and Rio Gallagher. So daylight hours are equal opposite north and south of the equator. Again, impossible if your north is a tiny bit in the middle and the south is a big bit around the outside. Here's just an obvious one. You can, again, take, I don't know, 10 minutes to research this on the internet. You can pick any two places, north and south of, reasonably equal distance. A flight from Japan to New York, distance of about 6,700 miles, takes 14 hours. Melbourne to Argentina, slightly longer, 500 miles longer, takes 15 hours. Yeah? This is on a regular Mercator or UTM map. But on the AE Circle model, on the flat model, that's New York to Japan, and that's Melbourne to Argentina. So it's like 4 times. It's saying 3 times. It won't be 4 times longer, that. But they take, within an hour of each other. You can pick any two places that are equal distance, north and then south, and see what the flight times are. They're not lying about flight times. Airplanes aren't, going 3 times longer just to try and trick you that it's not the AE Circle model. We can either say, the reality, we can accept the reality and say the model isn't right, or we can say, no, the model must be right, so reality's not right. We'll reject the reality. Doesn't make sense. There are, of course, 5 direct flights across the south now, probably 6 or 7. But again, these are done in times which are impossible on this circle model, because obviously the distances between the south, between Australia, South America, Australia and South Africa, and obviously South Africa and South America, all these 3 places, anywhere between 14 and 15,000 miles. Now, commercial airplanes travel at just under 600 miles an hour, 570 to 590. Somewhere around there. They don't travel at 1,000 miles an hour. The AE Circle model is around 24,000 miles in diameter. So 12,000 miles from the edge to the centre. So it's quite easy to test and show that flight takes 11 hours. That's 14,000 miles on the AE Circle model. So is the airplane going at 1,100, 1,200 miles an hour? Are they lying about it? Or is the model wrong? Should we accept reality, or should we reject the model? Or should we accept the model and reject reality? Australia to South Africa, again, QF63. You can check these flights out for yourself. Takes 14 hours. And if we look at the distance, again, just over 14,000 miles. Needs to be going 1,000 miles an hour. There's no commercial Boeing or Airbus that goes at 1,000 miles an hour. You'd need a MiG or what have you for that. It would take 23 hours on the AE Circle model. Same as New Zealand to Argentina, a flight that takes 11 hours 45 minutes. You can see it's 15,000 miles on this map. Can't be done in the time. So are they lying, or are the airlines lying, or are the passengers lying? I mean, I know flat earthers that have taken these flights. Max Egan's taken this one. It's the QF27. Quite famously, Sydney to Santiago. I think he's taken it twice on Gerran's show. 12 hours 40 minutes. And on this model, it's 15,200 miles, something like that. So again, either the airplanes are going almost twice as fast as they say they're going, or the model's wrong. I've heard that. I've heard it said, well, there's jet streams. There's jet streams going around. That's how, but if a plane is actually going at 1,000 miles an hour, 1,100 miles an hour, the people that build it are going to tell you about it. They're going to say, yeah, the engine only does 600 miles an hour, but luckily when we're going around the south, it gets to go to 1,000 miles an hour. It'd be famous. You get on a 1,000 mile an hour flight when you go from Sydney to Santiago. It's unheard of. It's not observed reality. We'll come to the heavens. Stars that are visible. I mean, the biggest one is the two-pole rotation of stars, north and south. Now, if you look at the northern sky, the stars rotate around around the North Pole, really. And they rotate anti-clockwise in the north. In the south, they rotate anti-clockwise. Now, what the flat Earth circlists said at first is that there is no southern clockwise star rotation. Eric Dubay absolutely flat out denied it. When my friend Paul Kofo from New Zealand got a video in his backyard and said, here I am taking star trails, going clockwise, going the opposite direction, he just got a lot of hate mail from people who wouldn't let the model go. Yeah, you're lying. You're using CGI. You know, I mean, you know, he's actually filming himself in his backyard with his camera. You know what I mean? So he's got 2 cameras, and he's showing people, and he's just a regular guy. So, you know, he's a genuine flat earther, and he's not the only person. I mean, he's well known. It's a well-known observed. There's lots of amateur astronomers all over the Earth. It's well known that the stars rotate opposite. So after flat out denying, then we get, oh, okay, well there is southern star rotation, but it's a reflection of the other stars. You know, again, sorry, but they are completely different constellations, different stars. Then we get, well, everybody's got their own personal sky. You know, so the stars kind of follow you around. I mean, obviously we've all got our own perspective of the stars, but if that was the case, there would be no ability to predict astronomical events. There'd be no ability to predict eclipses. You know, if the heavens weren't basically moving independent of your own observation. So we keep hearing fudges. Yeah, we keep hearing excuses, but that's what we get from the ball earthers. We get gravity. Oh, that's because of gravity. Well, that's because of, you know, everybody's got their own personal heavens. I'm sorry, but it's total bollocks. You know, I think we should, you know, we take all known observations and evidence and then change the model to fit. Not the other way around. I've got to have this model, I'm going to have the ball, I'm going to have the circle, I'm going to have this, and whatever observations, whatever evidence is out there, I'm going to ignore. And you're a government agent for saying so, for taking a film of your stars out your backyard. So, too much craziness. There's too much craziness. I mean, the other thing is, the Polaris is not really visible much south of the equator. I think about 10 degrees south of the equator you can't see it. But if it's in the middle of the dome, it should be visible from pretty much all over the disk. You can't see the northern stars from the south. You can't see the southern stars from the north. Yeah, they are completely different stars. They can't all be on this big dome thing because you'd pretty much be able to see most of the stars everywhere. The other thing is the people in the south would see the stars go horizontally near the horizon, but they don't. They all spin around the southern pole. And the other thing is, you know, again, because it's a globe projection, you've got South America, South Africa, and Australia and New Zealand all facing completely different directions. They're all facing south, but they're all facing completely different directions. So again, although they don't have nighttime at the same time, you know, at least 2 of them do, how come they can all look south, due south, and see Sigma Octans? Yeah. It wouldn't be possible if the Earth is set up like that. Very, very famously, sailors have navigated by Polaris for thousands of years. Whatever latitude you're at, Polaris, well, obviously north of the equator, Polaris will be at that altitude in the sky. That's simple. If we're at 53 degrees north, we'll see Polaris at 53 degrees north. That's how they've navigated for thousands of years. It's so commonly known. But again, if you've got Polaris stuck, and you know, it might be 3,000 miles, it can change the height, it doesn't really matter. But if you've got Polaris right in the middle of the dome there, the only times that's going to be correct, the correct latitude, is if you're right underneath it at 90 degrees and at 45 degrees. As you can see here, every other latitude is given the wrong angle. So that doesn't work either. And a real big one, again, it's inherent flaw of the model. You've got the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, as far as I'm concerned, they're equal. As far as I'm sure most pilots are concerned, all navigators, they are of equal length. But in the AE Circle model, the Tropic of Cancer, or should I say the Tropic of Capricorn, is 1.7 times longer than the Tropic of Cancer. Now, we all know a day lasts 24 hours. It takes around 24 hours plus or minus a few seconds for the sun to get back to the spot it was the previous day, which means that if this model is correct, the sun and moon would have to be speeding up and slowing down by 70%. Now, the sun obviously makes this trip between Cancer and Capricorn over the year, but the moon makes it every month. So it takes 2 weeks to go from Cancer to Capricorn and 2 weeks to go back again. Now that means that the speed of the moon, like I say, would change by 70%, and people would know about that. That would be a well-known thing. And experiments have been done with this. I mean, first of all, the known, known observed astronomy is that the moon does change speed by up to 6% over the month, up and down by about 6%. And they say it's because of the apogee and perigee, so when it's obviously approaching the shortest part of its ellipse, of its orbit. It does change, but not by 70%. We'd know it. You'd know. If the moon was speeding up by almost twice, you'd know about it. But a flat earther called Dave Marsh has done experiments on this, the moon race. You can check those out on YouTube. And he found that the moon was slightly faster over the equator. And then it slowed down again as it moved towards Capricorn. Again, that's impossible. That's impossible if this circle model was true. This is what we'd see. I mean, you can see it here. The moon is moving obviously faster to cover the same distance in the same time. That's the effect we'd see. And it's not what we see. Like I say, the moon is slightly faster over the equator. As it happens, that's another good debunking of the ball, because what NASA and astronomy tell us, the moon's orbiting, it's actually faster at its either apogee or perigee, I'm sorry, I can't remember which, but not necessarily when it's right next to the equator. So it's a statistical and observed debunking of the heliocentric ball theory. And we have, like I say, predicted astronomical events. Not only can we predict where solar eclipses are going to be, but if you look down here, we've got two happening in the Antarctic. Well, this is the ice wall as far as the official flat Earth model is concerned. How's that happening? We've got the sun and moon circling in the middle. How are they causing the eclipses right round the outside? Yeah, obviously same in the north as well. How are those eclipses being formed? But certainly these in Antarctica. Again, impossible on the AE circle model. And while I'm big on scripture, this is the only one I'm going to mention tonight, because when this scripture is mentioned, Revelation 7:1, so 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth. It's not the only time the Bible mentions 4 corners either, which again is not really matching a circle, holding the 4 winds of the earth. Now, can anybody tell me what the 4 winds of the earth are called? Anybody? They don't have names, they've got cardinal directions. Thank you very much. North, south, east and west. But every time you mention this, or the 4 corners, this is the model, or this is the picture that we get, a circle within a square. The only problem, there's the 4 angels standing on the 4 corners. The only problem is, of course, with this model, is the south is all the way around the outside. So every single angel there is holding the south wind, not the 4 different winds. This model doesn't match scripture at all. And that's just one example of it. You might say Isaiah 40:22 says he sits upon the circle of the earth. And that's the only verse. Every other one is 4 corners, sun going straight, on and on. I'm not going to talk massively about scripture tonight. The video that I've done on this pyramid model mentions a lot of scripture. And just to finish off about the Antarctic, the mythical ice wall, and the military that's guarding it. Now, in the debate we had with Jerry said, no, we don't believe that. That's just trying to make us look stupid. I go, okay, fair enough. But I heard Mark Sargent mention it a few days ago. I'm not sure if it was on the BBC interview, but he mentioned, there's a military guarding the Antarctic. 65,000 miles, all guarded 24/7, so you don't go and see that there's an ice wall. Utter nonsense. And you can see I'm getting quite angry about it, but I've had enough of rubbish. I've had enough of nonsense. Oh, you can't go and visit Antarctica. Yes, you can. You can fly over it. You don't even need to. These people go from Australia, and it's a 12-hour flight. You can sip margaritas and martinis while you're going to 90 degrees south, and you won't see an ice wall. Or if you do, go take it. Take some video. Show us all. We see pictures of ice shells. It's the Ross Ice Shelf, which is 370 miles long. Yeah, you can visit. Here's the Antarctic Gurkha. He's doing a blog at the moment. He's doing the 1,100 kilometre trip. I think he's following Scott and Amundsen into the South Pole. But keep up with him if you like. Antarctic Gurkha, Lieutenant Scott Sears. Just mentioned Richard E. Byrd because he comes up a lot. And, you know, there's a famous interview with him in Teletype telling us all about Antarctica and, you know, something about Nazi warships down there and all sorts. But first of all, he's a Freemason. So he's about as trustable as astronauts. And second of all, he just talked. There's no video, there's no photos. Yeah. And so even if he wasn't a Freemason, even if he was a genuine explorer, then where's just one guy? You know, by the way, he doesn't mention there's an ice wall or anything, but again, he gets mentioned so much in flat Earth mythology. Now, there are some parts of Antarctica that are restricted. Doesn't mean you can't go, but you need special permission to go because of wildlife or what have you. But you'll notice that they aren't all the way around the outside. There's lots of coast. You can go and visit. Can't go there without permission, but you can go there. You can go there. You can go there. You can go there, and all the way around here. So you can without any kind of extra special permission. Oh, we want to go there because we want to check there's an ice. There's an ice wall because we're flat earthers. I'm sure they'd give you permission to do it. There's a lot of talk. You know, all the leaders of flat Earth, you know, community with the big channels who've got all the subs, and they do a lot of talking. But if they really wanted to, you know, prove something, they could easily organise a trip. It won't be that much money. But instead, they crowdfund for rockets going off balloons, and you know we never see that either. Again, you know, it's an Antarctic semi circumnavigation. So it goes from I think it's New Zealand to Argentina. It takes 33 days. I don't know if you know of a boat that goes 2,000 miles that quickly, but it doesn't. I mean, obviously, you're getting off to visit the place as well. So, but your point is that, yeah, I'm okay. It's obviously going to cost a few quid, and you know, you take your big coat with you, but you can visit. There are companies that will organise tour. Oh, you can only go to certain places. Can we go to 90 degrees south, please? Yes, certainly you can. Can we go to the geographical South Pole? Oh, how do you know you're there? Are you a scientist? This, talking of scientists, Antarctic Circumnavigation Expedition, this was completed last year. Over 200 scientists and researchers from 50 different countries. I think they're doing the Arctic this year, but they did it in 90 days. So again, 65,000 miles, 90 days. They need to be 650 miles a day, but they stopped off a lot to do research. There's videos, you can go and check it out. Antarctic Circumnavigation Expedition. There's a lot of videos of penguins, so you know they're not anywhere else. It's not the North Pole, and they've gone to the South Pole. The vessel that they went on is the Akademik Treshnikov, a Russian vessel, again with a 50-man crew, so there's another 50 people that must be lying to hide the ice wall. It only goes at 18 miles an hour. So how are you going to get 65,000 miles in 90 days with an 18 mile an hour? It's quite a simple mathematical equation to work out, you know. Again, shall we deny reality? Should we say all these people are lying, but our model's correct? Or should we say, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to rethink them? Total number of researchers, 159, 73 different institutions, so a lot of universities, 60 crew on the Akademik. Number of island groups visited, 12. Samples taken 3,000 metres below the ice. So they'd have to be doing a hell of a lot of, you know, do it very, very quickly to try and get right around this 65,000 mile ice wall. I'm just looking for 14 different locations and 494 different landings, 33,000 kilometres. It's about 20,000 miles. Obviously, there was, you know, they've gone from Hobart to Punta Arenas to Cape Town. So obviously quite a lot wider than Antarctica as well. So they've gone a lot further round Antarctica than the actual just sticking to it. And they still did it in 90 days. They did it in one season because obviously outside of, you know, once you get past February, March, it gets really bleak there and obviously a lot more ice. Then we have the Antarctic Cup. A veteran Russian sailor, Fyodor Konyukov, completed it in 102 days. Again, if you know of a sailboat that can do 600 miles a day, 24/7, he's just him, can't stop, and he's trying to get right round the ice wall at that time, or is it just, is it just a big, is it just a big lie? Well, here you go. I mean, you can do this for yourself, and in fact, there are 15 Antarctic webcams, live webcams. These ones for the Australian Antarctic Division will give you a 24-hour time lapse of the previous 24 hours. We're now in their solstice season, in their high summer season, so you can see how much daylight the Antarctic actually receives. Again, the first noises from the flat Earth controlled opposition were, no, it's just a lie. All those videos of 24-hour sun going obviously right to left, the opposite as it does in the north, they're all fake. Even though I came across at least half a dozen of them, and there's only 2 of the Arctic ones. But you can see for yourself, do your own research. You just put Antarctic webcam, there's 6 for the Australian one, there's 6 on the British Antarctic Survey, but they only do live, but obviously check when it's going to be the middle of the night there and see if it's daylight. You can see for yourself. Yeah, are all these webcams lying just to hide, the idea that we're on this circle model? And there's 3 for the New Zealand one. But I would imagine Argentina and Chile have got some as well. But again, you can do your own research on it and see. Obviously, if there's 24-hour daylight in the Antarctic in their high summer, just like there is in the Arctic in June, then very, very hard to, how does the sun give 24-hour daylight if it's all the way around the outside? Not possible. And my last point on this, before we have a break, presumably, is, let me show you, and I can do this because I don't need live. Now we can see. Good, because it is an important point. A lot of people see...
In the Arctic. Already the sun...
Yeah, quiet. A lot of people are convinced that the sun's circling around from these videos. I've only found 2, by the way. 2 different Antarctic midnight sun videos like this, where it does a complete pan and the sun does not dip below. What I want you to notice is that, as far as I'm concerned, that sun is approaching and receding just like it does for all of us anywhere else. The only thing it doesn't do is basically dip below the horizon and then reappear, obviously, further over. But notice that sun is going from the horizon or the hills all the way up to the top of the screen and sometimes off it, and then comes back down again. Notice how much it's elevating and coming back down again. All right? And I do a comparison. And I've modelled the Gleason's model. That's what we've got here, is a camera. Ooh. I'm going to have to use the thing. Let's press play. So I've set up a sun circling round, camera in the middle. It's circling right above the Tropic of Cancer, so it's the height of summer, June the 21st. And we can see what the camera sees over here on the left, which is the sun circling round. Notice how completely level it is. Yeah, it's not rising up and down at all. Now, fair enough, people say, well, those 24-hour sun videos are not taken right from the North Pole, they're taken from somewhere in the Arctic Circle. So we can get the camera, let's move it south to the... Oh, I'm moving the wrong thing there. Let's move the camera right on the Arctic Circle. So now you can see what the camera sees, and it does have a little bit of elevation. It is rising a little bit. But is it doing anything like the Arctic midnight sun videos? Is it going from right from the horizon all the way up to the top? Look how much the elevation is on the video. And here's the sun circling round. Yeah. Camera's on the Arctic Circle, and we're getting nothing like that elevation. I mean, if I'll put the camera in London. London, June the 21st. The sun rises to around 60 degrees. There we go, in London. So now, okay, we're getting a little bit more elevation. This is right down south. Would you say that's going 60 degrees? I mean, 60 degrees into the sky? Or is it going about 15, 20? I mean, this is in London now. Yeah, it's not a match. The sun is not circling round. Thank you very much. Enjoy your break, and we'll go to the new model when we come back. Maybe I should have brought my guitar. Cool. Okay. So, for me, it's a process of elimination. Stop this now. There we go. If it's not a globe, we're not on a rotating globe, and it's not a flat circle, and I, like I say, prove that for myself. Like I say, it's up to each individual to do their own research on that. Whatever level you're up to, obviously we're going to have a very wide number of different views. So, what I know for sure is that the land is stationary. It doesn't move unless there's an earthquake. If you've been fortunate to have been in an earthquake, you know what the Earth's like when it's moving. That's not our everyday experience. Now, okay, our senses can be fooled, but not every single day of your life. If you've seen the same thing, you've seen the sky's blue every single day of your life, then the sky's blue. And I've never met anybody that says otherwise. So there are independent, observable, physical truths that we can gain from our senses. Our God-given senses is how we make sense of the world. It's not rotating, it's not orbiting. We're not in a vast universe. It's a model that's in our heads. And for me, when I first kind of realised that I haven't seen this myself, I haven't been up there. I haven't seen a ball Earth. I haven't seen it rotating. I haven't seen any of that. And as I said earlier, everybody lives on top of the land. Nobody lives underneath it or on the side. If it is a ball, it's a flat ball. There's no curvature to be observed anywhere. Geodetic surveying comes up a lot. Guess how do they do the Ordnance Survey? There's two types of surveying, geodetic surveying and plane surveying. Guess which one the Ordnance Survey uses? Plane surveying. And actually airplane surveying, aerial surveying, geodetic surveying doesn't seem to be actually used for any practical purpose other than to say, yes, we're on a ball. So I will always take criticism on board and see if it has any validity. If it does, then you change your model, you change your idea. I'm sure I'm going to present something tonight that's will look quite bonkers to most people. Maybe not the shape of the land. It's quite traditional, quite Mercatorish. And the other thing is east-west travel is reality, continuous east-west travel. Everybody knows you can get on a plane in Japan, fly east and get to America. Same the other way. Nobody ever finds a physical barrier. There isn't one anywhere. So the Earth is continuous. Either is a ball, or there's something very special going on. And I believe, because we're not rotating, water finds a level surface, etc., etc., that the 3 dimensions that we're used to are actually wrapped up in 4 dimensions. We won't be aware of this 4th dimension of space if we hadn't realised that the Earth was indeed a fixed plane. Basically, it's continuous. It makes space continuous. So when anybody says, Earth can't be flat, where's the edge? How come nobody ever falls off? Well, we know, it's a ridiculous thing to say anyway, because we know nobody does fall off or find the edge. But if you take all the information together, this is the conclusion that I've come to. The description of it being a Pac-Man effect just gives that instant recognition. You know exactly what we mean. If you go off the east side of the map, you appear on the west side of the map. You're not a teleporter or anything, none of that going on, but it's just a continuous plane. Do you remember the old BBC logo with a ball rotating in the middle, but the land kind of being continuous at the back of it? That kind of thing. That's why nobody's ever fallen off. Again, the Bible says the seas are enclosed with doors. Doors allow two-way passage. It says the seas are enclosed with God's decree. It's his commandment that holds in the oceans, his word. It doesn't say there's a physical ice wall there. It doesn't say the atmosphere there or anything else. And the ancients had this view as well. They didn't just have a view of a flat earth or a geocentric earth. They also had this view of east-west continuous travel, and east-west obviously travel of the sun, the stars and the moon. That's Nut, the goddess Nut here, and it's showing continuous east-west travel, flat plane, and then east to west. All the ancient cultures, the ancient Chinese also thought it was a square, flat Earth. So, what's the Great Pyramid got to do with it all? Originally, or up until a few months ago, I assumed it was a rectangular Mercator. A flat Earth was a rectangular Mercator. And then things just happen. You know, you get inspired or you get inspiration from places. The pyramid exists. It's not a hoax. Can't deny reality. Nobody knows still really why it was built. We know that it was built very intricately. A great deal of accuracy has gone into it. I don't know if you know it's more accurate in terms of its geography. It's aligned to true north better than the Greenwich Observatory. So someone knew, however it was, 3,500 years ago, exactly what they were doing. Now, the mainstream view is that they're built as tombs for pharaohs. Now, not only are we likely to reject it because it's the mainstream view, and we know generally the mainstream information is there to put us off, but there's no markings anywhere. I mean, the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, this is where they buried the pharaohs. Look at the difference. That's the pyramid. It's just rocks. Okay. Very nicely cut rocks. This huge, I mean, you can see the size of the people down there. Look how big these things are. That's outside. But inside, there's drawings all over the walls, paintings, colour. I mean, you can imagine they were full of jewels and gems, I would imagine, at one point. Sarcophagi and tombs. They let you know who was there, what they did, all about them. Very proud of it. Compare that with the King's Chamber, the so-called King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. You can see it's just a bare room with what they call a sarcophagus. Again, it controls us with language. They deceive us with language. So they call it the King's Chamber, but it might just be called the main chamber or the upper chamber, which is known as the King's Chamber. This is known as the sarcophagus. Nobody's ever found, no mummies ever found, no markings, no nothing. And if you think, oh well, ancient thieves stole them. Who's going to steal a dead body? Yeah, the jewels and stuff, but the bones are going to stay there. That's the so-called Queen's Chamber. Just a little alcove and, you know, a hole in it. So with the grain stores, when they built as grain stores, well, it's a lot of trouble to go to just to store some grain. Let's just build a barn. Yeah. Mystical initiations. Well, if you want to believe Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophist and all the occult, just remember not to swear. You know, then they're used for mystical initiation. Again, where's the markings? You know, where's the evidence? An energy generator. Again, you know, are there you know, mini pyramids anywhere else that are generating energy around the world? I mean, does anybody know of a pyramid that actually generates energy and goes into the grid? And it goes into the grid?
No, it goes up.
Okay, so again, it's just conjecture. At the end of the day, if there's a pyramid anywhere that actually is plugged into the grid and supplies energy, then I will believe it. Again, same with the water purifier, really. Same thing. Say again. Okay, when Plato was a member of the club. I mean, I'm not saying that people might not have been, but that's not what they were built for. Yeah, probably just build just a regular Masonic hall for that. But Plato and all it's funny, in our education system, we revere the Greeks and we revere the Renaissance, which obviously brought back the Greeks, the rebirth of the Greeks, and they're all occultists. When you look, Pythagoras, etc., etc. A lot of them were paedophiles as well, and they really were. Astronomical Observatory is a big one, and that still holds for a lot of people. Again, you know, the thing was sealed. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when it was sealed. Maybe it was sealed when it was finished, but it certainly wasn't opened again until the 9th century. When they had to hack their way in, and Al-Mahmud basically got people to believe there was a bunch of treasure buried there. So the thing was sealed, so it's not going to make a good astronomical observatory. The other thing is, all the shafts were sealed as well. I mean, the thing was covered in casing stones for a long time. Tourist attraction, maybe. That's, you know, more of a tourist attraction at the Valley of the Kings, I think. But everybody has, I mean, you know, it's a great source of wonder for a lot of people. What I was fascinated with was these internal shafts. Now, they weren't actually discovered for a long time. I think at the end of the day, the pyramid was sealed for a long time. The King's Chamber shafts, you can see the King's Chamber, I'm going to call them now for you know, just because that's what they're called by most people, is not in the centre. The Queen's Chamber is, that's off centre. The King's Chamber shafts reach the outside, or you'd assume they do, you know, with no casing stones. But the Queen's Chamber shafts, first of all, they don't reach the outside, and they were both sealed until they were discovered in the late 19th century. It was a British engineer called Wayman Dixon who first discovered them. They were measured till Flinders Petrie in the late 19th century, and then again, I'll tell you about Ganton Brink with his robots have measured them as well. But the thing is, these shafts, not only are they pretty much equal angles, so any alignment with stars is just going to be coincidental if they're exactly equal. But the thing is, if it was built on as observatory, again, you're not going to see anything. These things are only 8 inches square anyway. And if you want to observe the stars, just go outside. Go outside and observe them. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. The idea that for ventilation shafts, again, the pyramid, you know, for the workers as they were building it, because it's not going to be ventilation for the dead pharaohs, is it? The top is going to be completely open until the last, you know, until the capstone is put on. So you're going to have ventilation all the way up, right until the very end. That's the best way of ventilating it. Again, these shafts, it doesn't actually show it on here, but the Queen's Chamber shafts actually go along for 6 feet horizontally first, and then they go up. So you're not going to make good ventilation shafts for a start. You know, I'll take questions at the end. Yeah, no problem at all. And again, escape for the pharaoh's car. If this is spirit, doesn't really need any particular shafts or what have you. Spirit can go through pretty much all physical materials. Like I say, they were measured. They've been measured twice. The first time they measured them, this is for the Queen's Chamber. You'll see why it's important shortly. 37.28 for the north, 38.28 for the south, so a degree out. And then in the 1990s, a German called Ganton Brink measured them with robots. Quite a lot closer, 39.28, 39.36. Now they say within 2 degrees of error, because you know, at the end of the day, it's not that easy. I'm quite surprised. I mean, they found supposedly found a new chamber recently with kind of X-ray. I'd like to see them, hopefully sometime in the future. It's been 25 years since the last time. I'd like to see them measured really accurately with, you know, X-ray equipment, I suppose. But to me, they're probably going to be pretty equal. They were probably built to exit at the same kind of, or certainly have the same angle. Queen's Chamber's right in the middle of the pyramid, bang in the middle. I mean, it's an amazing feat. It's an amazing monument when you dig into it. Obviously, it sounds like, you know, a lot of people have done a lot of research and study into them. Because it's so accurate, because it has these shafts, everybody's wondered what are they for. I'm just using common sense, you know. I'm just using common sense and reasoning. We could make all kinds of conjecture and stories about them. I believe that the whole thing was built for its geometry, simply for its geometry. I mean, we know that pi is represented in a lot of its measurements, and phi, the golden number, as well. I mean, it's a mathematical marvel, but it stands 280 feet tall as well. And it's, think about it, it's the only building still standing from antiquity. So somebody's gone to great lengths to build this building and make it geometrically and geographically accurate. And what I found, because we talk about pi with the pyramid, is where might circles interact with this pyramid? And if you take a circle with a radius between the base of the pyramid and the floor of the King's Chamber, what we'll find is that circles that tangent it also tangent all of the shafts as well. Now, this is a truism, whatever shape of the earth it is. These shafts absolutely tangent these circles perfectly. Now, obviously, there was a bit of a trial error that went into it. I tried one big circle and two big circles and all kinds of different things. And then it started to appear that what is known as sacred geometry, what is known as Metatron's cube, or the flower of life, is actually represented by the pyramid. This circle here tangents the King's Chamber north. This is the King's Chamber south there. This is the ascending passage. Obviously, I've extended the lines out, and that circle tangents the ascending passage perfectly as well. The Queen's Chamber shafts, it's going too fast. Queen's Chamber shafts are the outer circles. They're not quite perfect tangents. One's slightly that way and one's slightly that way. But what I've done is this particular drawing of the pyramid, I've used it because it's got the most accurate. It's the most accurate drawing of the pyramid to the most recent measurements. Right? So I've tried to be as honest about it as possible, really. Like I say, this is why I believe that the shafts, if they're ever measured properly, will probably, turn out to be exactly the same angle. But I've no way to, I'm not going to stand up here and say they are exactly equal, because they're not, as far as we know. The most recent measurements were done 25 years ago. Which I find, I find it quite... You can't see that, can you? Astonishing, to be honest, that nobody's managed it before, nobody's noticed it before. This is a different drawing. John Legons, the very, very famous pyramidologist, Egyptologist, and they are actually slightly more accurate here. I suspect that he's drawn them with exactly the same angle, so you can see that the tangents are perfectly, or maybe you can't because it's so faint, unfortunately, on this screen. This is the Wikipedia pyramid. On the left side, the tangents are nice, perfect. You can see on the right side, the green line here is absolutely nowhere near this circle now. That's because they've drawn it at 42.7, about 3 degrees different to the last measurements. So Wikipedia's main pyramid drawing will not reveal any secrets. It's another reason why we shouldn't trust mainstream information off the bat. This is another one of John Legons, and he's drawn this so these would exit the pyramid at exactly the same level. And now you can see the tangents are absolutely perfect all the way around. Like I say, if the pyramids are ever measured fully accurately, we'll see that this is indeed correct. So what the pyramid is doing is basically just carrying on. It's not just the internal geometry, it's how it relates to this perfect geometry as well. Because you can say, oh, well, it's a bit new age, or it's a bit occult, or what have you, but it's circles and lines and angles. We need them for all buildings. Yeah, buildings are square generally. We need to measure things accurately. It's called perfect engineering. Found something else as well. If we obviously mirror the pyramid with the extended lines, what we see in the middle there is a perfect copy of it. Unfortunately, the screen's changing the angle between the computer and the output. But you can see there, fit another pyramid perfectly inside there. And again, if we extended those lines out, and we'd see another pyramid, a double pyramid in the middle, and it'd go on and on forever. So not only have we got sacred geometry in there, perfect geometry, and just an amazing building, geometrically and geographically, there's also fractals going on here. The knowledge that these guys had many thousands of years ago is quite mind-blowing. And it also kind of brings up a general point, the idea that we're advancing, that the ancients didn't know very much, that they were just sand people and they were very simple. I think it's actually the other way around. Whilst we're advancing technologically and we've got fantastic computers and chips and self-driving cars and all the rest of it nowadays, what we're actually doing, I think, intellectually and in terms of potential, is going backwards. At the end of the day, if I don't need to look at a map anymore, or read a map, or if I don't need to write anymore because I can type, and so on and so forth, our own amazing creative powers are going to diminish generation after generation. I think the pyramid proves that they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were far smarter than we are today, or we believe we are today. So, the Bible says the earth's got 4 corners. The Bible says the earth's on pillars. So I'll show you a video of what I think the earth might look like. Cue dramatic music. God built the earth, or a creator built the earth, is he going to create it higgledy-piggledy, slap a bit here, slap a bit there, or is he going to use absolutely perfect geometry and engineering to do it? If the earth is fixed and it's on pillars, why wouldn't there be the magic number 7 of them? Why wouldn't they be arranged in perfect fashion? We often see the earth on pillars with these long-legged columns all around the outside. It doesn't look like it's going to support the earth. I think this is a more likely concept. Map that we used to, shape of the continents as we used to, but on a 4-cornered, 4-dimensional Earth. Antarctica is the continent at the bottom. And that's it for that video. Let's see what else we've got. Okay. And a lot of people say, well, we don't believe in a dome. Is there a firmament? And yes, there is. I've no idea what shape it is. It could be exact shape. It could be another diamond on top. It could be a dome. It could be various different shapes. Again, the Bible says there is a firmament, and he makes no bones about it. It also says that the heavens are on pillars. So not only does the earth have pillars supporting it, but the heavens also have pillars supporting it. And, for those who keep, going on about Isaiah 40:22, the one verse, and say there's the full video that I've made includes about 75 verses, and this model matches every single one of them. God has favourite numbers, 7, 12. It doesn't say exactly how many pillars there are, but there is certainly a firmament above us. And it refracts the light, it refracts the sun and the moon and the stars, which is how the sun actually goes down as well. We know refraction changes, obviously, the light, it bends it. So as the sun moves further away from us, it goes exponentially further down. That's how we see the sun set, even though it's actually going straight across, which I may or may not show you in Blender shortly. You can watch the full video of this on my channel in YouTube. Just try to extract certain bits that I can play to you live tonight. And there's not a lot more than this, by the way, because it takes a long time to render things down. If you ever use 3D modelling. Well, so the concept's an idea. I think what we want to get to as well is, what about the edges? How do those work? It's funny because every time you look at a flat Mercator map, which is what we're all used to, they're all kind of 4-dimensional. We all assume that, it carries on going round. I believe the Earth, it acts like a cylinder, but obviously it's a flat plane. You can say the firmament could be any shape or size. I'm not fixed on anything. This is all brand new. It's all absolutely brand new. It could be a monkey shape. You say it could be a diamond shape as well. Let me show you so 4 dimensions. What's this 4-dimensionality? I think we're kind of used to, like I say, the idea of a Pac-Man effect, where basically you can keep going, you don't fall off, it's enclosed. Now I made the point that if you're a creator and you're creating a world to be inhabited, would you enclose it with solid physical barriers? Because you know that they're going to explore and they're going to find them in the end, and they're going to wonder, like Truman, I suppose, where are we? Are we enclosed in a prison? Or would you enclose it with doors that allow... So I just want to explain, obviously, east and west I think people are used to. A lot of people ask, well, if you go off the north, do you come out the south? And again, that's not people's experience. What we tend to find, I can't do it. What we tend to find, I mean, with this particular model, I'll just pause it. It's easier. It's basically there's only east and west. Obviously, whichever direction you're going off at, you're going to come back on the other way. So, you know, this is why there's no edge. It's a little bit, like I say, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, or at first, to get your head around the four-dimensionality of space. We're also programmed to believe time is the fourth dimension, where time has got nothing to do with space. It's a different thing. It's like saying licorice is the fourth dimension. It's got nothing to do with it. As far as I'm concerned, there are three physical dimensions that we're used to, and like I say, because of logical conclusion, it's a logical conclusion. Is there evidence for it? Yes, because we can travel east-west, and we know the Earth isn't rotating, it's not a ball. That's it. There's only a logical conclusion. If it didn't work perfectly, we'd have known about it a long time ago. If it wasn't seamless, we'd have known about it a long time ago. So, north leads to north. You can play the end of the video once. North leads to north. Watch the green plane. Goes off the north, comes back to the other north. And again, 90 degrees along. So again, it's what we're used to. It's what, you know, if you take I don't actually know if planes do cross exactly at 90 degrees north, but if you took a plane north from London, you would basically come back on the sides to Siberia. And it's only going to play once, but hey, this is what it looks like. Again, obviously, if you're on the plane and you're going round, you're on the airplane